The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday, and boy, we got a ton of stuff.
And I tell you, we missed it on Wednesday. I got phone calls from people saying, where's your show? Yeah, where's your show?
Where's the show? Where's the show? Even though we announced it. But yeah, we got a ton of stuff, and it's just, but again, most of it's got to do with the economic status of Fall River and the mayor and all the machinations that go along with it. Well, I guess, the 4,000 signatures, the recall over 4,000 signatures.
4,533.
Yep. To be exact, for you people who want to be exact. That's prior to any presumptive challenges. So the recall is on. So already all the rumors and supposedly there's an allegation out there that the mayor has demanded all the signatures. I guess that's to put back his retaliation list. All of you are going to get your property taxes, and you're going to get new fees and taxes. Oh, wait a minute, that happens to everybody in the city. Okay, forget it. Cancel that. I'm being a little facetious, but yeah, he wants all the signatures. Like, oh, Americans don't have the right yet. When we ran a recall, he ran downstairs into the foyer to sign it. Oh, that's right, you have a right. But when it's against him, he wants everybody's name. We're going to take your name like the Gestapo. So he wants everybody, that's the allegation. So
yeah, well, what's interesting about this whole thing is this is coming before the city council on Tuesday.
Yep.
Now, again, there's rumors,
allegations. They're alleging that there may be a monkey wrench thrown into the works.
Somebody may object to this vote.
And they did specify a name as the primary culprit who is going to throw another giant monkey wrench into the democratic process.
But here's the problem I have. If this city councilor does object,
or any city councilor
objects, and it's only one objection, a special meeting can be held 2 days later to address this issue.
Yeah.
And it won't put it off for another 2 weeks until January.
Yeah.
And this is just to notify the mayor that he has 5 days to resign or an election is held. They can set the date for the election at the same time they do this, and they should set the date at the same time so we can start the process. Because if the mayor resigns, there's still going to be an election.
That's right.
So they should set the date for the election.
Right.
And if the mayor had any common sense, any decency, I know, I'm talking.
But, who was it? Was it Franklin or Jefferson who said the least common of the senses is common sense?
Exactly.
So.
If he had any decency, he'd finally say, look, 4,500 people said, I want a recall. That's enough to recall him and to not get him reelected. I mean, we don't have huge margins for elections.
Yeah, but wait, you got to look at his perspective, convoluted as it may be. There were 6,000 people signed it. They discounted some of them for whatever reason. But 4,533 people signed his petition. But remember, he's got 25 people that hold signs and go to the council meetings and cheer. So that he's being picked on. Obviously the number that's dissatisfied far exceed, but he doesn't care. And that's one of the problems. He needs that paycheck. He's living in the basement. But let's get back to this whole thing, which goes back to something that we opposed from the get-go. That pathetic document that should be used in your bathroom. The Fall River, the new Fall River Charter, some people are saying Mioza wrote, which again, we have to remind you, they hired a consultant. They hired a consultant who took pieces of everybody else's and put it together to create a disaster, a contradiction the most vague and ambiguous document ever drafted. It's been nothing but a bone of contention since the day after it was passed. So that allows any counselor to object and basically stop the democratic process for no reason at all. There's no reason, there's no justification. It's just a objection to stop the process, which means that they allowed this. Every charter commissioner except Dan Robillard, who basically voted against everything, which I commend them for, because I would have done the same thing, that they allowed politicians to be more political. That document actually, that particular section especially, flies in the face of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which clearly states in part of the first Section 5, that these politicians are our agents and at all times answerable to the people. How can you allow a politician to object to a recall? A recall is the fundamental foundation of this country. The people who are supposed to be part of a government, of the people, by the people, and for the people. Not because of the council, because of the mayor, and because we're politicians. A recall petition should be sacred. As far as I'm concerned, the city council can't object to this. They're violating their oath to uphold the Constitution of the state of Massachusetts. They are obligated to allow the people who have spoken. We supersede any decision they make because it says in our Constitution, we are the government. We said we want to recall him, and anybody who impedes that process, even for one meeting, does not belong sitting in that chair, especially when that individual is the one who was always making parliamentary objections and talking about constitutional rights. And you all know who I'm talking about.
Not a clue. Not a clue.
So, as far as I'm concerned, and I'll tell you what, I know the complaint will go well. I'll file a complaint against him if he objects, or anybody who objects. Because I'm going to file it on constitutional grounds. And they might throw it out and say, you don't have any, you can't do it, but guess what? I will do it anyway. Because to me, it's a travesty. It shows why people in this state consider Fall River an absolute, not a 3-ring circus, we're a 9-ring circus. And that 9 is in the chamber of horrors. Because if that happens, and the rest of the council does not go on record as saying this is a travesty, that councilor is in violation of an oath he swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when he took office. Because it says, read it, councilors, read it. It says you are at all times answerable to us. We are the government. We are the people who elected you, and we are the people who you are supposed to be doing our business. You are representatives and agents of us. And if you stop the recall, you do not belong with your butt in that seat. And that's just my opinion.
Here's one of our viewers. He goes, I will file, and I will set a recall on him.
That was my next thing. He should have, if that recaller should turn around and recall anybody who objects, because listen, this, and I don't care. Because the reality is it's a process, and it's a process precipitated by the people, and that's what our government is supposed to be about. Now, if for some reason we do this and Jasiel gets reelected, well, we got no complaint because the people spoke.
Right.
We can complain about turnouts, but the reality is that is the final arbiter of the situation. When you go to the Union Hall and you present your opinion and there's a vote, you had your day, you said your piece, you supported your position. If they vote against your position, well, the majority rules. That's the United States. But the process is sacred. It's what our government is based on. And for this to even be part of a discussion shows how disturbing it is and how disturbing the politics of Fall River has become, where every single thing, this is getting like Washington, everything is partisan politics and the hell with the people. Damn the torpedoes. It's criminal.
Well,
it's absolutely criminal that that even that allegation could be made and even considered. And the reality is, it is a consideration.
Well, what's interesting is I was asked, would I run during the special recall? I said, I decided years ago that I will not run for office. The people of Fall River are too ignorant to vote for people that will do something to benefit them. They want to believe their lies, and they want to vote for their chow mein sandwiches. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And a lot of people know that's the truth. That's why we don't get responsible people to run for office, because they know it's not worth their time or money, because they don't care. They don't want to hear the truth. And as long as the voters continue to believe that it's okay to vote for a chow mein sandwich and elect people like Leo Pelletier for a chow mein sandwich, you've got a problem in this city.
And you're right, but you could get in. There have been situations. I personally knew, I don't know if you knew Rita Moniz. She was on the Fall River Regional Task Force with me. Very bright woman. She had a master's and a PhD from Brown University. She was the head of the political science department at UMass Dartmouth for a long time. She got married and moved down south. Her husband was originally from down south. He worked for ESPN or something, and on the Golf Channel or something. But she ultimately moved, but she spent a lot of time. She was the head of the political science department when a good friend of my daughter's graduated with a degree in political science. She's now a professor at UConn in political science. So very, very intelligent woman, obviously understood the political process as a department head. She got elected to New Bedford City Council. She lasted 2 terms. They booted her. Why did they boot her? Because she did she did the right thing. And that's the problem with people. We see it right now. We see people who were every day on the line in the recall, our recall, now objecting to this recall because it's for one of their friends. And that's the problem with people. Most people can't be objective, because now the recall's no good. It's a terrible thing. But if you recall somebody that I dislike, I'm with you. If you recall somebody I like, it's no good. It's not fair. You shouldn't be able to recall people. Well, that's part of the political process. And I hate to say that I agreed with anything he said, but when we had our recall and he came down and signed that petition, he said, you have a right to do this. And that individual who worked on our recall should be ashamed of himself for making that statement, because, it's the right of the people. You don't have to sign the petition. You do not have to vote in favor of the recall. You can vote for your mayor. But to deny people their rights gets back to what Bonaparte said so many years ago. The 2 levers that move men are fear and self-interest. And it's all about self-interest. When your guy gets hammered for something, all of a sudden all the rules go out the window. It's like, my Johnny didn't do it. Oh, my mayor didn't do it. And it was in front of the council. I got a right to come down here and berate the council because you're picking on my mayor. Well, sorry, that's the process. And you got to live with it. You go in there, you give it your best shot, and no 2 people have probably taken more arrows in their forehead than CJ and I for standing up for what we believe in. But that's what it's about. And we've won some and lost some. But we took our position, stood by our position, supported our position, and that's what you can do. You like the mayor? Don't vote for the recall. Don't sign the petition. But remember, you did it to somebody else. Why? Because you didn't think he was doing a good job. And the people who ran this recall feel that Jasiel is not doing a job and can't do his job as mayor. And they have every right to do it. Every right to do it.
I agree. Well, while we're speaking about the mayor, 18,000 pages of evidence, 18,000 pages of documents in the Mayor Jasiel Correia case. Cohen got 3 years with less than 18,000 documents.
Well, one thing we know about the feds, that's why it takes them so long. Everybody said, why isn't this coming down? Why isn't it come down? Because when they build a case, boy, do they have a case. 18,000 pages plus, a few over, I think, of discovery, and we have some of the legalese here, but, you know, the reality is that's a lot of documentation, but, you know, we have to preface that, you know, or at least go on record and say.
The automatic discovery produced approximately 18,256 pages of documents.
Oh.
The government is aware of its ongoing obligations to produce additional discovery. You'll notice they're saying additional discovery.
Additional.
So
we may hit 20. We may hit 20,000 before this is over.
Other than when the time comes to produce Jenks Act's material, the government does not currently expect to make additional large discovery productions. Defendant is not yet in a position to know whether he will be making additional discovery requests. The parties jointly request that a protective order be entered in the case with respect to any non-public materials produced in discovery. A draft protective order is hereto attached. Which is interesting because it says, joint requests having been made for the parties for protective order restricting disclosure of discovery materials produced in this case, it is hereby ordered that as to any discovery material produced by the government to the defendant during the discovery process in this case, defense counsel may question or confront potential witnesses about matters or information contained in the discovery materials produced by the government, and may disclose such materials and their contents to the defendant and to those members of defense counsel staff who are necessary to assist in counsel's case. Discovery materials and information contained therein shall be used solely for that purpose of litigating matters in this case and shall not be divulged to any other person. So in other words, the public can't see it, but the mayor can confront people who are accusing him of this. Which I don't know about. I mean, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't think it's good. It serves as a slight intimidation, but the only thing working in the favor is, if you got a choice between of irritating Jasiel and being threatened by him, I think the threat of then being held for perjury by the federal government would supersede being worried about.
Exactly.
You're going to have to stand by what you said to the feds, because the feds have got it, and they've got depositions, they've got it on record, and if you flip now, because as I said, we've seen so many flips in our council, and I thought it was ironic. We'll segue. Did you see that piece on Channel 10 about that building in Providence?
Yes.
When the president of the city council actually said what we all know. He said, well, you know, when anybody flips, you know that there was some kind of pressure brought to bear. In other words, either somebody paid them off or something. And there's a president of council saying, look, when people like this flip, when politicians flip, they either got bought off or threatened off. And so they're going to go, and Jasiel's attorney's going to try to, to trap them and skewer them. But the reality is what they said is well documented, 18,000 pages. I'm sure the feds have got probably 2,000 pages on every single testimony they've got or more. So it's, I'm not worried about the feds case. I don't think it's a good idea. I mean, you've got a chance to cross-examine every witness on the stand at the trial. So maybe they're looking to make a couple of things. And I'm a betting man. I'm betting that when all this is said and done, and we milk enough paychecks out of the city before you go to trial, there might be a plea deal. I wouldn't be surprised for him taking a plea.
Well, already you've got people saying that the 18,000 pages of documents are all repeated. It's not 18,000 pages.
Oh no, of course.
It's just repeats.
Of course not. That's why they put it in. That's why they put it in the legal document.
Right.
Because it's 18 pages of la 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 la. I know. Look, zombies, wake up. What do you think? That's why the feds don't put together a case in 2 weeks. That's why when they indict somebody like Mafia Dons, it takes them like 5 to 10 years to put together a case with wiretaps and all kinds of testimonies. Wake up. I know it's all absolute baloney. The feds are full of crap. They don't know what they're doing, and he's not guilty. And, you may be right, and I'll say you were right. But you know something? You know what my argument is right now? Because you can't argue it until there's a case. But I got one thing, and I've got 2 words to say to you. Al Capone.
That's it. Al Capone.
That's it.
True.
I rest my case. He killed half of Chicago and they couldn't convict him. He screwed up a couple of tax returns.
And they nailed him to the cross.
See you later.
Yep. This is for those people who are questioning what the Jenks Act is. The Jenks Act is 18 U.S.C. Section 3500. Provides that the government produce, or the prosecutor, is required to produce a verbatim statement or report made by a government witness or prospective government witness other than the defendant, but only after the witness has testified. So that is the Jenks Act for people who are questioning it.
Yeah, and
Boy, they're getting a legal lesson too today.
yeah, well, the problem is there's no legal process for your friends. That's one of the problems with people who are for the recall when it's not somebody they dislike but not in favor of it, and they don't understand that it's got nothing to do with who's involved. You know, and that happens everywhere, even like in unions. People used to get upset with grievances in a union because they didn't like the guy who grieved it and the union was representing him, even though we had a legal obligation to represent everybody. And I used to have to explain that when you get a grievance, you got to do this. You got to put a piece of paper over the name of the grievant and read the grievance and judge the grievance on its merit.
That's it.
And then if it's a correct grievance, you are obligated. And guess what? The people have every right to recall a mayor. Whether they're successful or not, well, we don't know. But to come out and try to complain about a process that you utilized against somebody else, to me, is disingenuous at best. Well, so, I mean, it's just, that's ridiculous. You know, I know that your guy's always great, and that's just human nature, but maybe it's only, there are a few of us who can separate and compartmentalize things. It's like, you know, if my mechanic sucks and he's my next door neighbor, you know, and he invites me to his barbecue or I invite him to my barbecue, it's not a problem. He's a nice guy. But if he can't fix my car, I'm not bringing my car to him. And because you like somebody, you know, the fact that they can't do any wrong to me is convoluted at best. So
that's the ostrich syndrome.
Yeah, the
Bury
ostrich.
your head in the sand.
yeah. And hey, look, and the other thing, Fall River has only got the 5th lowest income.
That's right.
But I disagree. We're up to 39,000 median household income, where the median for Massachusetts was 77,000 in 2017.
$77,385.
385. So we're about half again. But, you know, I still think we're probably one or two, first or second lowest, because if you know anything about math and ratios, if you look at the cities that are lower than us, North Adams, Holyoke, by the way, that's the way it's pronounced in Holyoke. It's not Holyoke. If you know anybody from Holyoke, they will tell you that town is called Holyoke. And Monroe, which is even smaller than Holyoke, those 3 towns, if they have people that have low incomes, it drags it down even more, because the higher income isn't, or the higher incomes can't, you know, it's like
offset it, yeah.
Offset it. Where you get now Springfield's a big community, and Fall River, you know, when we have our poor people are offset drastically. And
by $10,000 stipends.
By stipends, yeah. Well, you know what that tells me? Fall River's moved up to 5th from the lowest, or 2nd from the lowest, is that the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. Because you notice what this says here? This is the key. You have to learn how to analyze data, people. What does this say? Household income.
That's right.
Household income. Let's see how much the per capita income. This way, the poor people's per capita income, we'll see how much money the poor people have increased over the last 3 or 4 years. And 5th isn't good either. By the way, there are 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts. So that means, if you do your subtraction, right? There are 346 communities with higher incomes than Fall River. So we're not doing, even being 5th is not too good. Maybe 5th, maybe being 5th out of 27,000 is pretty good, but when you're the fifth lowest out of, you got 341 communities, some of which are not in great shape either, because I don't see some really poor communities. As I say, these statistics can be skewed because, you know, the old saying, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. Yeah. I don't see Lowell, and Lowell's not a very affluent town. I don't see Lawrence in there in the top 5, and I know Lawrence has got a lot of poor people in it. You don't see Lowell, you don't see Lawrence. So I said it's disproportionate. I think a better gauge of it is what the per capita, and even that's skewed too, because obviously the people who make a lot of money. But I don't see some very, very poor communities. The bottom line is, look, it is what it is, and you know, we talk about how good Fall River's doing. We're not doing very good in anything except the bad categories. But hey, don't worry about it. They're going to start selling marijuana in Fall River, recreational marijuana.
Right next to the casino.
So all the people that are depressed because they live in a place that's the fifth poorest community in the state can all go to the marijuana place and get themselves even more impaired.
And here's how they're going to deal with the quote-unquote traffic issue. They're going to make it by appointment only, and you have to get onto an app to register for an appointment or go online to register for an appointment to show up and buy your pot. Let me tell you something. Somebody shows up with $1,000 to buy their pot, they're not going to worry about an appointment.
So now they're going to have to steal a cell phone to get the app. So, I mean, you know, where do they think they're opening this place up? In Newton or Wellesley? This is Fall River. You don't think that somebody, I will bet you every day people show up there to try to buy pot without making an appointment.
Of course.
Because half of them don't have cell phones, or or they won't get an app, or they're not going to make an appointment. They're going to go get their pot.
That's it. Well, lastly, a group rallies in support of Diman Superintendent Aubin. And right after this happens, what does the mayor say? Oh, I support this superintendent. But your people took him out of office.
That's right. Yeah, you remember what the president of Providence City Council, when people flip, look, the mayor's people are the people who voted this guy's contract down, the political hacks, the Joan Menards, and a name that's in our law department. Howiak voted against them too. So we know that the people who voted against him were mostly Jasiel appointees, and granted, one did, the priest, but I think his higher authority overrode his political. He said, "Well, it's just like the witnesses saying, I'd rather offend Jasiel than the federal government and get a perjury." I guess the priest said, "Well, I'm either going to not make Jasiel not happy by not getting rid of this guy." And as soon as Jasiel found the wind blew the other way, like the rail trail, remember what he said about the rail trail?
Yes, I do.
You don't want the rail trail.
You don't want the road on the rail trail.
You don't want the road on the rail trail. It will not be done. And we knew it was baloney. And then as soon as the election was over, and now as soon as he found that out, he's gonna ask his people, who, you're going to tell me they made a vote like this on a superintendent without going to the mayor? I've been in this game way too long. It was like telling me the fire commissioners didn't call the mayor before they made every appointment. You know, that's absolute. If you believe that one, I'll tell you what. I got some mountains in Florida and a couple of bridges in New York that I can sell you.
I'm sure.
I'll go into the real estate business.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, it's been rather interesting. But now all of a sudden the mayor's on the side of Aubin, and I guess they're going to attempt to have a reconsideration.
He also knows he's got a recall coming, and if you can see that the parents and the union members in Diman are already not happy with him. So that's he's looking for his votes again. Oh, if I upset them, that's more votes I'm losing.
Well, somebody's got to lose them.
We got a ton of paperwork. We can't get these days off. I don't know. We get too much paperwork. We can't. But remember, the council is answerable to us at all times. Read it. Commonwealth of Massachusetts Constitution, part of the first, Section 5. If you haven't read it,
I've brought it up in Google so many times, I think it's on speed dial now.
Read it.
Hey, people, have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.